Hey guys, Marissa at KitchenTableStamper.com. You are catching us in a 14 Days of Love tutorial bundle bonus content series. This is the second of the blog. Now there's also exclusive content going out in our email list. These are tutorials in this series that are bonus content for our 14 Days of Love. If you haven't seen the 14 Days of Love tutorial, it is a PDF tutorial with 15 awesome Valentine tutorials, and it's available for only 14 days. It'll be available through the 13th of February when it goes back into the vault. We are in a series where we're doing bonus content. So if you've got your 14 Days of Love tutorial, page 14 is the Share a Milkshake slider card. And what you want to do is print this Queen Bee slider card project sheet that'll be available at the blog. I'll link to it below to add to your 14 Days of Love tutorial. Now, what I did with my 14 Days of Love, it's a PDF. I printed it out and then I organized it with the cover and the binder, and then the cover sheet has thumbnails of each project. I put that on top, and then I took each of the tutorials and printed them individually, stapled the pages together, and then put each tutorial in a page protector. So there's 15 tutorials in there, plus the bonus content that I'm adding as we go. And now as I make templates and things for the projects, I keep adding them to the page protectors. And I'm building this awesome resource for myself. It started out 15 crafty ideas to wow your family and friends, get you stamping now. It's paper crafting inspiration for Valentine's Day and way beyond with all the bonus content that we're doing. So this is our slider card today. We're using the Queen Bee and the Dainty Flowers Designer Series paper. We pull happy birthday on the outside, and it says you're amazing and beloved. Isn't that cool? All right, let's get started with some Starry Sky cardstock. My Starry Sky cardstock is 8.5 by 5.5, and we're going to pop it into the Simply Score tool here, and we're going to go on the 8.5 inch side, and we're going to score at 4 and 8. And then we're going to burnish those with a bone folder. The first thing you want to do is add your Designer Series paper to the front. And the front of this card is the middle panel. So we've got a 1/2 inch and then the middle panel. This is the back of the card. Our Designer Series paper is 3 3/4 by 5 1/4. We're gonna go ahead and adhere that down. Now all the measurements for this will be on the printable project sheet, and then you can buzz over to KitchenTableStamper.com and download the project sheet. We're going to center that. And then before I forget, we did this one live on Facebook today and I almost forgot the thumb notch. I'm going to use a 1 1/2 inch circle punch, but you can use the 5/8 inch 1 5/8 inch layering circle die. If you've got that, you can go a little bit smaller than 1 5/8 or 1 1/2. So if you got a 1 1/4 inch circle punch, what we need is a little thumb notch here. So we're gonna use our centering ruler on the Simply Score tool, and we've got a 4 inch card. So we're gonna go 2 inches on each side of the 0, and then mark the 0. The centering ruler is the second ruler, the one above on your Simply Scored, if you didn't know that. I love this tool. I need a centering ruler. My eyes definitely are not on straight. All right, then 1 1/2 inch circle punch. We're not gonna do halfway. We don't wanna go that deep because we're gonna add a little slot that works as a track for our slider mechanism. So you only wanna go about 1/3 of the way and punch. Now we've got our thumb notch. Next, we're gonna cut that track for our slider. So bring your paper trimmer in, and here's my best tip for you. You're gonna go ahead and turn your card. So this small little panel was on the right, now you want it to be on the left, and your Designer Series paper down. This is what's most important, and it's a little awkward too that we're cutting from the back. So just remember, you got to have your designer series paper down. Now we're going to line up at 1 3/4. This is what's different between this card and the Share a Milkshake card that's in the tutorial. In the tutorial, you're going to line up at 1 1/2. For this design, you're going to do 1 3/4. You're going to take your blade and you want to bring it down to 1 inch. The problem is on the Starry Sky, it's really hard to see 1 inch. So grab a scrap paper. I'm going to just use my grid paper here, and once you slide that underneath the ruler, don't interfere with the track. Now you can see your measurements really easily. The white and the contrast makes it easier than Starry Sky and the numbers. So cut from 1 to 4 1/2, and we're almost there. Okay, now we've got our slit, and that is the track for our slider mechanism. Pretty cool, pretty easy, right? Are you following? It's really, it's so much easier than it looks. So here's our card one more time, and now so you can see how we're progressing. And there's that little slot that your tag is riding on. Now I'll tell you, anything can ride on that little slider. You can do a square or a circle or an oval. You can definitely get creative with what rides that track. All right, so we've got our tear and tape adhesive. Let's go ahead and cut, bevel these edges so that you can make a nice clean seam on the back of the card. Now our mechanism and the inside, the pull for the card. Let's slide this aside because we're going to do some stamping. The inside of our card is basic white cardstock. It's 3 3/4 by 5. And we're going to do a little stamping with Fresh Freesia and Starry Sky ink. And we need that piece of grid paper back in here because we're going to stamp off and then stamp the edge too. All right. So we're using the Queen Bee bundle. I love this bundle. This is actually a warm-up project for the Queen Bee Stamp Camp that's coming later this spring. And we're going to take this little background image and stamp off and then stamp our background. And then same thing from the other side, stamp off and stamp our background. There we go. Then there's a little spatter. We're gonna add a little more interest here. Go up and off the edge, stamp off, and we can kind of extend a little bit. All right, I love that. Then we're gonna take the word beloved and we're gonna take one of the tags. So I cut one ahead with Starry Sky, and I already did this design and now I'm copying the design. So I know where the card is gonna end, so how much room we're gonna have when we pull it out of the pocket. I know about where the tag is gonna sit, so I can just use my die cut here as kind of a placeholder and stamp around it. If you're doing this card and you're doing it different, so you're casing this card, maybe you're doing that Santa Express train and you want the train to go across the front of the card, you might not know exactly where you can stamp or how far you can stamp until you pull it open. So in this case, we did our stamping, and I can go ahead and add my greetings because I know where they're going to land. But if you're doing this card kind of from scratch, redesigning it, you might want to skip your greetings at this point, assemble the card, the slider mechanism part of it, and then come back and stamp in your greetings. That's what I did with my original card. I put it all together and then came back and stamped in where I could fit the greetings and they'd be seen. And every time it's going to be different, because if you put something that's, say, a big oval here or a circle, a squat circle might not show much or might not cover much of this panel at all, and then you could have some more room for a bigger greeting or whatever. So keep that in mind as you're designing one of these cards or redesigning one of these cards. All right, so I'm going to take my beloved and I'm going to put one about here, and then do kind of a triangle placement, 2 and 3. And then I have a cute little greeting, actually 2 cute little greetings. Your happy birthday and you're amazing. These came from my brand new Sentimental Park stamp set. I love the fonts and the sentiments in this. And these little guys are just perfect when you need a tiny little something, tiny little words. The fonts look really good together too. All right, so that's our inside stamping. While we're stamping, let's keep going. I've got a little white dovetail banner here. This one is cut from the Cracker and Treat box dies. The Cracker and Treat box, there's an awesome pouch in the 14 Days of Love. You're not going to want to miss how we use the Cracker and Treat box, but the other dies in the set are totally worth the cost of admission. There's 5 word windows, there's stars and hearts and 2 different tags. Really a great die set, and we're going to use a little dovetail banner from that set and stamp happy birthday with Starry Sky. And now here's the fun part. If you look at my little bee, this one, the background, it's Starry Sky stamped, but the watercolor paper that we stamped on is primarily Starry Sky. Here's one where we stamp Starry Sky, and look at the watercolor paper that we stamped on is primarily Crushed Curry. So now we have these pieces from the Dainty flowers, and we're gonna see what we wanna do. I wanna catch one of the other colors. I think I wanna catch some of that rich razzleberry this time. So I'm going to grab my bee and my Starry Sky ink. Now I like to bring the bee, or this ink, to the bee so that I can get good coverage without too much pressure. If you put too much pressure on the ink pad and you really smash the stamp into it, you're gonna lose some of the detail in the wings. But if you don't get enough coverage on the body, it's not gonna have that nice contrast that you want. So this way we can keep adding ink more to the center and do it with light pressure. All right, so let's go for here where it's kind of rich razzleberry. Plus it's the perfect place to tuck it right in on that scrap. Now, since we've got the rich razzleberry underneath the Starry Sky, walk your fingers, let the ink transfer. Give it a second to transfer. Awesome. I think I'm going to try and get some of this spatter on the tag. Let's do that next. Cut this off and set it aside. We'll die cut in a minute. Now I've got my tag from the Tailored Tags dies, and I think that if we go like this, we'll get some of that Starry Sky to pull through from the back, the rich razzleberry, and some of the greens and yellows. I really like this little section. That's what I've been doing with the paper, is just kind of using my die as like a viewfinder. All right, I like that. Let's see if we can get that through the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. And then I think we'll have enough room left if we go up and get some of the Starry Sky, where we could get another bee out of that scrap, which is perfect. All right, so now that I know kind of where I want my tag, I trim down my piece, pop it right into my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. And each one of these cards is going to have its very own individuality, its own personality, which is kind of cool. I also love that I've got an awesome watercolor wash tag here, and I don't have any watercolor mess to clean up, no spatters to wipe. I don't have to wait for it to dry. It just looks cool and it's ready to go. Let's cut the rest of our bee pieces next. Got my bee, and this is a perfect place to cut with the flower dies. I'll show you those right now. These are the little flower dies from the Queen Bee die set, and they've got an awesome little texture on them. I'm using fresh freesia this time, but hold on to all the scraps from doing this with your watercolor paper, because you can use all those little bits later on to make some beautiful flowers that you can use as embellishments in the next project. All right, when you're lining up the bee, I know I'm kind of off in the corner of the screen here, but when you're lining up the bee, you want the antennas to be right along the bottom edge of the die, and then you want to see whatever color you stamp those legs in, you want to see little feet through these little dots. You want to see that starry sky because that's what we stamped it. If you're seeing only pink watercolor or yellow watercolor, then you're not quite lined up right. So watch those little windows, and then you can check your landmarks at your wings, and wherever you land, just make sure that you see the little feet in the holes there in the die. When you got that, I like low tack tape. It really helps everything. I'm gonna put some old olive and do the wreath. And we've got some vellum. We're gonna do the wings. And then you might remember this. This is called Bee Dazzling. It was a celebration paper from a couple of celebrations back. I'm going to use that glitter paper. If you don't have the Bee Dazzling, you can use whatever kind of glitter paper you have. And we're going to do the little heart and crown with this sparkly stuff. All right, let's go ahead and give this a crank. Here's all of our bits. I'm gonna get the sample back in here. Got my bee, my wings from vellum, and the little Bee Dazzling heart. Let's get those glued together. I don't wanna lose the wings. They're easy to lose track of on the background and with the lights. So I'm just gonna gently fold them up from the center. Mini glue dot right in the middle. Pop that right over the heart that's part of the bee design. And then this little Bee Dazzling heart can cover where we put the glue dot for the wings. I do have to fold the glue dot down just a little bit. Glue dot's just a little bit bigger than our Bee Dazzling heart. Isn't that cool though? Look at the difference. Here's our Starry Sky bee. And then here's one that's primarily rich razzleberry. And here's our crushed curry bee. Let's go ahead and adhere the two tags together. A little bit of glue just on the one side. It's the left side if you're looking at it from the front. Line up the holes, but shift to get a little matte behind. Then we can add our leaves. My leaves are stuck in the die there. Let me grab my take your pick tool and give it a little push. I love the detail of this die, and wait till you see. All right, so you get those sweet little leaves, and each one of those leaves has a little vein embossed right down the center of it. Such pretty details. We're gonna add glue, but you don't wanna go too much past this kind of second set of leaves from the center, maybe a little bit, but your tag needs to slide freely when it's on the card, so you don't want any glue to get stuck to the card base, just where that's gonna go over the tag. And centered. And then our bee. Ooh, I'm really liking the way this one's turning out. It's fun. We get to see all the different variations as we go. Let me get my card base back in here. All right, I'm gonna stack my little tag and slide my sample for just a minute. We've got our piece for our pullout. We've got our pocket. Now this is our mechanism. It's 3 inches by 3/4 of an inch, and we're gonna use 2 adhesives to make this thing work. On the front side of the mechanism, or on the outside facing, we're gonna use Stampin' Dimensionals, and I like to put 2. After making several of these, I've learned that if you put the flat side down along the bottom, and then you put the flat sides together, you can get 2. You want to make sure that there's no adhesive overhanging though, because it'll stick your card. All right, so we've got that. Now we're going to take the back side of the mechanism and we're going to use tear and tape adhesive. So flip and run from the edge just past the middle. And I'm going to do 2 strips. Now we're going to put the dimensionals on the outside. Open up this slot, slide in and leave the dimensionals out and the mechanism all the way to the bottom of the slide. Turn over and you've got the tear and tape exposed. Now you're going to take the front side. If you've done any stamping, you're going to flip that to the front and then make it so that you've got an even border on the right between the fold and the edge, top to the edge, and then on the left between the fold and the edge, everything nice and straight, and then burnish it to that mechanism. All right, now we can go ahead and close the card. So remove the liner and fold up. You want to line this up nice and straight. Tuck that into the inside so that the back is as clean as the front. Now let's grab our tag and we can remove the Stampin' Dimensionals liner and we can pop the tag on. Now you want the tag so that it covers the mechanism, but so that these little leaves don't go past the edge of the card. And so it's going to go right along the edge of that mechanism and pretty close to the bottom of the card also. Do you notice how close that is? That's how it works for the tag, but if you choose a different shape here, your layout might be just a little bit different. All right, now are you ready for this? Let me pull this up. So now you can see our stamping on the inside was in perfect placement. Let's add some ribbon. I'm really loving the sheer seam binding, the crinkled seam binding ribbon with this. I think it just matches the Dainty Flowers Designer Series paper so nicely. So we'll slide in from the front and then loop up. This is the end that's still stuck to the spool over the top. Tuck and pull. We've got nice loopy ribbon. The tails are up, or the ears are up, the tails are down, just the way you want it. And we can trim away from the spool. Now when you do it that way, like I did, leave it on the spool from the front, loop from the front, swoop over the top, tuck and pull, you'll always get the best bows with the least amount of waste. That's all we throw away, you see. All right, where's my linen thread? Because that's our next step. Now you can do the linen thread or not do the linen thread here. I liked the natural texture. I think it kind of ties all the shimmery ribbon and the glimmery crown and the little heart. I think it ties it together with the wildflowers in the back. I think it's a nice little texture element, but you can do that if you like, or you can get wild and add some like metallic threads instead of something natural like this. But I'm going to just loop, swoop, tuck and pull right over the top. So there's one and then another one on top. I'll adjust the loops so they're the same size as the ribbon underneath and then cut away from the spool. And there you go, no waste there. I love that. Let's get that little crown and our flowers and our birthday tag. All right, so we've got happy birthday and our little crown. By the magic of television, you saw me do the fresh freesia. I did another small fresh freesia flower and then 2 rich razzleberry, one of the larger and one of the smaller. We're going to use a lot of glue dots here. Let's pop one on the back of this crown. Okay, we'll pop the crown right on the knot, the tag, nice little detail. And I need a Stampin' Pierce mat for our flowers. Let's give them some shape. Pop these all up here. And now when I did my original samples, I used my Simply Score tool, the little stylus for the small ones. And if you follow, you know how I like to use the Take Your Pick tool for the bigger ones. I'm gonna do the same, the big end of the stylus for the small flowers, but I'm going to see what happens if I just use the same tool on the bigger. Oh, no problem. Works great. See how it just curls them right up into kind of a cup shape? Adds a little life to the flowers before you adhere them instead of just gluing them down flat. I'm going to use a lot of glue dots for this because it really does make it quick and easy. We're going to add everybody to a glue dot, and then we're going to embellish. What I did was I took my larger freesia. I'm going to pick that up and put it next to my little vine, and then add the razzleberry to the center, and then a little freesia flower next to. So there's our tag. And then I'm going to pull this guy off and check where my glue dot is. We want the glue dot so that it's on the pocket. You don't want any of it on the starry sky because otherwise you'll glue your pocket closed. Once you got your little flower there, and you can check from the back and make sure that there's no glue dot overhanging the edge to glue the pocket closed. Then grab the next one for a second layer. Now let's get our happy birthday greeting on there. I'm going to do a little Stampin' Dimensional on the birthday end. I'm going to do a little liquid glue kind of in the middle. I'm not going as far as the happy or the end of the tag because it's actually going to go past the tag. You don't want to put the happy on the banner or the glue on the back of the happy side of the banner because you might glue your tag to your card and it won't slide. So what we're going to end up with is a little bit of a lift here where it's down flat but lifts up. I'm going to position so that my little freesia petal kind of comes up between happy and birthday. Get that guy on there. Now we need just a little bit of sparkle, and my favorite embellishments lately are these iridescent rhinestone jewels. I just love the fire that they throw, and they're perfect for this card with these with this bundle and this paper. All right, I'm going to take the largest dude right here and pop it right on in the center of our flower at the top there. I like the big one up there because it gives you almost a little handle to hold on to when you pull the greeting out of the pocket. And those small ones on the flower centers down low. And there it is, we did it. So here's our happy birthday, you're amazing slider card with the queen bee. We got 1, 2, 3, a little bit different each one depending on where we got the piece from the Dainty Designs and which watercolor palettes were prominent. If you've got any questions about the project, email Marisa at kitchentablestamper.com. And to shop Stampin' Up 24/7, you can buzz over to marisaalvarez.stampinup.net. Oh, and for more information about the 14 Days of Love tutorial, check out kitchentablestamper.com. I'll put a link in the description below. You're not going to want to miss. Don't forget it goes back into the vault. February 13th is the last day to buy. All right, you guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.